What seems tiny in your hands can turn into overflow in God's.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
We are delighted to welcome you to another episode of Life's Inside Track. And I'm Yetta Decker.
And I'm Ken Decker.
And it's where we get to share thoughts, tips, tools, tactics, and truths that we all need, we all deserve. You, I, everyone, so that we can turn our house into home, our families thrive, and we build wealth wisely through real estate. Faith turns things into overflow.
Yeah, let's look at the loaves and fishes.
That's so traditional.
It is.
And so true.
And so true. And maybe we'll look at it from a different vantage point. But here was a young boy with a small lunch, probably small fishes. We're not talking
not like the ones
fishes.
You catch in Mexico.
No, not like that.
Go to the West
We're
Coast.
talking a couple small fishes and a few little, they call them loaves of bread. They would have been small, right? And that was multiplied by God to feed the 5,000, which was probably more than 5,000. That was probably 5,000 men.
Yes. And then children and women as well.
And abundance came back in the baskets when they collected what wasn't eaten.
Right.
Talk about a miracle.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we get, I get a little apprehension about speaking about miracles, especially when it comes to money. And I've had clients say to me, we started praying and our money seemed to go further when we were struggling. We didn't have much income. We were students. The car never broke down the entire time that we were students, or just small miracles of money providing. I remember one lady, she was in Bible college. She came home and she didn't want to ask for money, but she was short, a few $100s for tuition. And that Sunday, somebody came up, shook her hand, and there was a couple $100 in their handshake. And they just said, God told me that you might need this. And so that's the kind of provision that may be available when we have faith.
It's interesting when you talk about that, because I don't want to propose that we have blind faith.
No.
Right? Like we're still to do our part. And I go back to our beginning of having a relationship with Christ. And that goes back to 91 when it all started. And we were upside down financially. We were upside down relationally, near bankrupt in every area of our life, financially and relationally, and of course, spiritually and all of that. The only thing that hadn't got taken away from us yet really was the health. And we were only in our late 20s. And so that was still on our side. But every other area, we were near bankrupt. And when we started taking financial classes, Mastering Money God's Way, Ron Blue back then,
right?
We were, I would say initially, horrified. It made no logical sense. I did not initially have the faith to say, I'm going to start giving money when I wasn't making my payments. We were consolidating. We were upside down. The average Canadian, if they're without income for 6 weeks, they risk bankruptcy. That's real truth even today. And we certainly were living that reality. And yet, by faith, and at that point we were making probably not $30,000. We'd been making 12 some years earlier. So I don't know, we got ourselves in a hole even with next to no money income coming in. And yet we started with giving away 1%. And then we started 2%, and then 3%. And then we jumped to 5%, finally got to 10%. But that little bit of faith, and it was little, allowed us to start saving. And then eventually we went from being what I'm going to say the bottom 10% of net worth, because we were negative net worth when we started the journey in faith, to now the top 2% in Canada.
Right.
So, and I would say it was all by faith. And then taking action according to the faith.
Absolutely. And it was interesting because it took that first giving money away,
So hard.
which then gave us the ability to save, the discipline to save money and spend less than we earned.
For the first time in our lives.
That was really a big turning point for us. And then things happened, like we started making more money. And I think we also started spending less money on going out. And we were, it was just a lifestyle change. We started having potlucks with people and different things. So we still got our fulfillment of social and going out and eating different foods and that kind of stuff, but we weren't spending the same kind of money. And I don't remember whether things didn't break down or whatever. There just seemed to be enough money.
It started to turn the tables.
Mm-hmm. And, one of the things, when you look at that story of the young boy who offered up his lunch and fed the thousands, right? Jesus blessed it. God multiplied it. It's in John 6:9-13 if you want to read it. But it took the faith of a young boy to give his lunch away, to give up control of his lunch, and probably not just his lunch. Many of those people traveled a long distance to get there, so that was probably the only food between him and might have been the next day or 2 days travel, who knows? But he gave it up in faith.
And can you do that? I think that's the question we're asking in this segment is, do you have the faith to, if directed by God, give up the little you have or trust him with it so that he can turn it into overflow?
Yeah, and we're not talking recklessly. We're talking with wisdom. It's, one of the things I was taught was if I have my hand tight on what I have, then I can't open it up to receive more. I have to hold on to what I have loosely. And if God takes it away, then God takes it away, right? It's as soon as I attempt to hang on to it tightly, and that's when I lose my faith. And that's when I really am working out of fear as opposed to faith, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So just really, if you can, relate to our story. Your story won't be the same, but think about it from your vantage point. What story do you have where you can see the evidence of your faith lived out? Where did you take a moment when you had little and were able to, by trusting God, have it turned into much? And if you lived in the state of fear, you would have been clinging to it, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, and same thing with, it applies to your relationships, it applies to your health, not just your money, right? Like everything that you cling to, the old saying, if you love it, let it go. And if it returns to you, it was real love. You know what I mean? Like when you're clingy, it's not a good thing. And one of the things that they've done a study on, and generosity studies show that those who give regularly report higher life satisfaction and resilience across generations.
Yeah, not just this generation, across their generations.
Yeah, so if God can multiply a small meal into abundance, what might he do for your finances, your time, your relationships, when you release them to him? What a great thought. We're glad that you're joining us on Life's Inside Track because, as we talk about this, it's about building wealth through real estate, but it's also about much, much more and much more than just money.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.